Today I have Hunter Powell and Kaysha Love. They're both Team USA Bobsled Olympians. They just made their way back from the Olympics like several weeks ago. So I'm super excited to talk with both of you. Both former track and field athletes in the Mountain West. Kaysha Love was a sprinter at UNLV, and then Hunter Powell was a decathlete at Colorado State. And they both transitioned into bobsled at different times. So we're going to talk to them today about kind of that transition and how they've learned and progressed as athletes. I'd love to talk to both of you, kind of whoever wants to go first, about maybe Kaysha, since she started first, on how you got into bobsled.
Yeah, I think my story is very similar to a lot of other people's story. I think that bobsled is just this really great sport for second opportunity athletes, right? Like at the end of the day, you might have some unfinished business in your current sport. Maybe it was injury or timeline or something that didn't really work out for you, right? So, running track at UNLV, I was at nationals, and there was a bobsled coach that approached me and my coach Larry Wade, and kind of told us in so many words that he thought I was doing the wrong sport and that I needed to come try bobsled. And I remember thinking that he was crazy. I had spent the last like 8 years just training relentlessly for track, and I thought that I was going to be a professional track athlete. And he just so kindly was like, "Yeah, you're a great sprinter. You're a good one, especially in like our country. You're doing well, but you could be one of the best in the world in the sport of bobsled if you gave it a shot." And the Olympics are coming in 2 years, and I think you could be ready for the games if you gave it a shot. So I took him up on his offer to try the sport. I went to Lake Placid, New York, did a rookie camp, and absolutely fell in love with the sport. And from that point forward, I have found myself in this amazing winter sport.
That's awesome. And you kind of brought Hunter into the sport. Either of you talk
100%.
about that. I'd love to hear about kind of how that happened as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it definitely convinced him. So when we started dating, he was finishing up his career as a decathlete. And when he ended up retiring, he was just kind of training his everyday life of just lifting, sprinting, just enjoying, just being fit. And I just couldn't help but like recognize that he had like the speed, the power, like the body frame. And then he just had that, Hunter, like this crazy just work ethic and cannot like let anything go. And so like you would be perfect for bobsled, and you're already training like a bobsledder. You lift 4 times a week, you sprint, you like, who pushes sleds for fun, who pulls sleds for fun, right? Like, so I was just telling him that he should just at least give it a try. And around that time there was actually a like slide to glory event that was happening in like Utah, and so I asked him to just sign up for that event, give it a shot, and the winner of that event gets like a paid opportunity to go to Lake Placid to then do a rookie camp and try out. And so I think he more or less did it on a joke, or kind of just like yeah, I'm just gonna do it to kind of shut me up a little bit. And he did that slide to glory, and he won that event and went out to Lake Placid and had himself a good time. So I was really happy that he finally listened to me for once and tried a new sport. So yeah, that was really fun to watch him just progress and become so good in the sport in a really short amount of time. It's been really inspiring for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that you were able to kind of pull him in as well. And like, it is so crazy to think that you could just try something as a joke or for fun and then end up at the Olympics. Doesn't happen
Yeah, for
to
sure.
people, I would say. Um,
But yeah.
Hunter, tell me a little bit about your track and field background. I kind of mentioned you're a
Yeah.
decathlete. Tell me more about that a little bit.
Yeah, I was a decathlete all the way through college. The first time I actually did the decathlon was my freshman year, 3 days before the conference track meet. I went up and asked the head coach, "Hey, did I make the team?" He says, at the time I was only doing the 400, 200, 400, and 800. I asked him, "Did I make the team?" He says, "Yeah, we're going to have you do the decathlon and the open 400." I had never done any of the events except for the 400 and the decathlon. So I started laughing. I asked him, "Seriously, did I make the team? Seriously, you're going to do the decathlon and the open four?" And so I ended up competing at the time. I was at Western State, um, and competed in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. I think I took third or something like that. Um, and ended up showing a little bit of talent. When I went to Baylor, I continued doing decathlon. I was all conference twice there in the deck. And then when I went to CSU finally, where I had the best coach and best training partners in the world, that's where I ended up winning conference both indoor and outdoor. I kept training because I fell in love with it. I kept training, hoping to make the Olympic team afterwards for about, I think, 4 or 5 years after college. But like she said, like after this last Olympics, I had made peace with knowing I'd given everything I had, and more or less like bad luck is part of all sports. You get hurt, you'll lose coaches, whatever it is. I'd made peace. I'd done everything I could in my power to try to make it happen. And the stars probably weren't going to line up, but yeah, then she talked me into, hey, you really got to try this out. You still have the athletic ability. You're probably going to have a new passion for this. And when she told me, I was thinking, you're out of your mind. But I'm glad she talked me into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that most people maybe don't know a lot about bobsled and how people even get into it. Same with like skeleton and luge. Honestly, a lot of the Winter Olympics, like conversations I was hearing while like the events were going on, I had a lot of people ask me, how do you even get into that? So it is really cool to hear kind of how you both have that power and that speed, but being able to translate that into a completely new sport probably was a little difficult at first. What did that look like for you, Kaysha, just kind of jumping in and like knowing that sprint technique, but having to translate that into something else?
Yeah, so it was really difficult at first. I'm not going to lie to you. It was definitely really challenging. It's a very unique sport and a very unique technique, and so it is very similar to track. So of course you have this like base and a like good 101 understanding of like the bare necessities of how to be fast or how to push a sled or how to be dynamic, right? So but then when it comes to actually learning the technique of the actual like hit position, which is what we call the position that you're actually hitting the sled and initiating the power of the sled starting to take off from the block of the ice. And then really just trying to learn how to be comfortable behind the sled, right? So pushing and sprinting are two very different things, but they can look like the same and they can often feel like the same when you're trying to execute them. But learning how to actually like efficiently push something versus just like trying to sprint upright are just two very different things. So trying to learn that was probably my biggest challenge. And then I think when I made the transition to becoming a pilot, that was ultimately like the biggest transition for me because piloting is like nothing I've ever done before. So it was really like starting from ground zero and just trying to figure out the best way to learn this approach. And when your coaches are coaching, like normally I'm a big visual learner. And so in track and even as a brakewoman, there was lots of examples. There was lots of visual learning of like what to do to try to execute a certain body position or a certain cue going over the crest as you're pushing. But in piloting, everything is done inside the sled. So you can't see what other pilots are doing and the coaches are trying to coach you on a feeling more or less. And so it's been really challenging to kind of try to find my own as trying to take in some other like advice and coaching tips. But it's been a really fun learning curve. It's really challenging and it's been something that I've grown really passionate about.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I know you switched to piloting last year, correct?
So
And
I
then
switched after the 2022 Olympics.
okay. And
Yeah.
then you became a world championship in the woman or a world champion in the women's monobob last year.
Hell yeah.
That is so amazing. And like,
Hell
obviously, you
yeah.
see a lot of really experienced pilots out there, and
Yeah.
you had kind of just recently transitioned. How was that just winning the world championships and getting that title?
Yeah, definitely was by far the hardest thing that I've ever done. But I really think that I owe a lot of that success to just being surrounded by greatness, right? Like every single coach in my coaching staff is a multiple time Olympian, if not an Olympian, a multiple time Olympic medalist. Every pilot that had been come before me had also been a world champion, an Olympic medalist, Olympic champions. So when you're just sitting at the table of greatness and you have all this experience to be able to like piggyback ideas off of and to be able to have that guidance was just really helpful. And so I think that as challenging as piloting was, it was definitely something that I felt like I was born to do. It felt like it was something that really clicked for me. And of course, you're going to have good days, bad days, and ultimately, like every day you get on the track, it's going to be a different challenge. But I just was really excited to see that like God gave me this talent to be able to really understand how to pilot these sleds and to kind of understand how to, and I guess what I'm looking for, how to really like interpret the feel that my coaches are trying to like explain how to do it in a sled, right? So ultimately, it was the hardest thing, but it was definitely the most rewarding thing, and it is a feeling that I'm still trying to continue to chase to this day.
Definitely. That's amazing. I can't even begin to imagine kind of that mental aspect of it. And then also just learning off a feeling. I'm so used to looking at video and looking at other people's technique or analyzing my technique, and you can't really do that on the interior of the sled. So that's
Right.
interesting to hear. How do you guys use that video in your training with Team USA? I know you guys use OnForm for like technique analysis. How do you guys use that in your daily training, like going down the track? What does that look like?
I mean, it's pretty huge. Like obviously, like you said, there's watching the actual technical review of your push technique, making sure that you're hitting good body positions. But a lot of times on the start ramp, we'll overlay, like we'll film really good pushing crews and our pushing crew, which is also a good pushing crew, but we'll overlay them or
Oh,
do a side by side comparison, see exactly when are they loaded, when is the pilot getting in, when is our pilot getting in, when are the brakemen jumping in, how are they loading into the sled. And on some tracks where the feed has an exact replay of everybody in the exact same curve, like Lake Placid, there'll be times where we'll even do like you'll layer on top of each other a person's run, so you'll kind of see like you'll see two sleds on the exact same track on the exact same line, but you're seeing how they're differentiating in each curve. You know, like how they're coming in, where are they gaining speed? Because you can see like you'll see the two pull away from each other or where they'll catch up. Um, yeah, as far as using the video review, I think is huge for every piece of it. I mean, we'll have coaches standing, literally hanging out in the track as far as they can, holding their iPad, catching pilots come through, and then for us, it's just equally as important to see like how's our riding position? Are we staying low enough? Are we getting jostled back and forth in the sled? I mean, I use the video review more now than I did in track, and I thought I used it a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that just OnFirm in general is just so user friendly. It has the features that like not only like are helpful for just one sport, right? It's helpful for I feel like every different sport. It really can do anything you ask of it from like Hunter said, overlapping videos, doing side by sides, like allowing yourself to really have the zoom power that like most apps or just like your regular iPhone will allow you to do. And I just think the convenience of being able to like link this in with every single person on our team, right? So it's not a
Totally.
situation where it's like we can only watch film review when we're with the coach's iPad, right? Like with OnForm, we have the ability to link it to every single athlete. And so you can do video review on your own. You can watch other videos that coaches have sent with voiceovers. Like it has been huge in a sport where you're chasing like hundredths of a second. Being able to really like dial in on video review of what sleds are doing in certain curves or what the brakemen are doing in their push technique is a huge benefit. So I think that just OnForm alone has been a huge just benefit for our program. Like there's just been times where coaches will be frustrated that maybe they don't have the OnForm app on their iPad and they're like, man, I have to use the regular camera and it's just, I can't get the right angle or I can't zoom in. And in bobsled, you're really talking about like 1 inch to the right or 1 inch to the left can really be the difference of like a tenth or a couple hundredths here or there, depending on the track and the curve. So,
And especially at something like the Olympics, it's coming down to a matter of maybe 2/10 is the difference between like a silver and a bronze or whatever it might be, and that's over 4 miles of ice.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, it's yeah, being able to have something that's so precise and allows us to deep dive into what we're doing to such a degree is huge.
Yeah, I'm curious in your guys' training camps and when you were at the World Cup, were your coaches there with you every single time, or were there scenarios where you're training on your own and maybe sending video to your coaches like through the app, or just in general trying to get that feedback maybe when you weren't together?
Yeah, I think all the above, especially on the pilot side. So there's only about 4 pilot coaches, and there's usually about 20 curves. And so sometimes we'll collaborate with different countries to kind of cover more of the curves. And in those scenarios, that's when we might get videos sent to us through the app, right? Like maybe a international coach who doesn't typically work with us, they also have the OnForm app who can send us their videos they recorded. And then other times we all travel on our bobsled team everywhere. We're spread out throughout the entire country. And so some of our coaches are here in Utah, some of them are in Florida or Arizona, right? So to be able to train on your own and have the ability to be able to still get feedback after your training with that ability of sending videos has been huge. But throughout the season, primarily, like all of our coaching staff are on the ground and typically have the videos, and we do like a big video review where we'll set up the iPad to a TV and be able to do a big group review on the OnForm app.
Nice. That's awesome to hear. Also, I know that you guys were able to train on that bobsled track kind of before anybody else could, or that was in September. I remember Hunter, or November, Hunter telling me that you guys were out there. What was that like being able to kind of compete on that track maybe before anyone else and then learn from it and get ready for the Olympics in that way?
Challenging.
Yeah.
It is a really some tracks you'll just naturally take to. Like it both as a brakeman and as a pilot, there are some tracks that I will just naturally push really well at and I like pushing at. And there are
Mhm.
some tracks that a pilot will just naturally pick up and start driving really, really well right off the jump. Cortina, I don't think was that for anybody except for a couple Germans. Like it was a lot of the curves were shaped really, really weird, so you had to be perfect on how you get through some of these curves or how you come out of them. You know, not just on like the right timing of the steer, but how much to steer, how you're, you know, like, yeah, Cortina was really, really tricky, especially on the top half where you gain all the speed. And then even for the brakeman, like we ended up pushing really well there, but the ramp itself was very weird. It's super, super long and really, really steep. So you have to, like, for us, we had to have a lot of speed to be able to keep up with the sleds that's going down, but also you had to be able to load. You had to load early enough to where you're not going to skid at all coming out of the grooves, but you have to be able to be fast enough and run it deep enough to where you can accelerate the sled to a competitive time. So it's just, I think for all of Team USA, but especially for us, it was, I thought we did well, especially in that first World Cup race. Kaysha crushed it, and Team Horn's group did pretty good too. But it was very, very tricky. Like it wasn't like we picked it up right away. It was a solid week and a half of getting our asses kicked before we started figuring it out a little bit.
Definitely. Well, better then than maybe at the Olympics, which is good, but still, I can't even imagine. I was watching some of the races and seeing that one turn with the wood panel, people coming wood. I was like, this doesn't feel safe right here.
Correct.
Yeah, that one turn. Um, well, let me see if I have anything else for you guys. Um, Basically, I guess just in general, what would you recommend to anybody who maybe is interested in bobsled or even on the track and field side of things? And like how have you guys both gotten to this level of elite athletes and kind of like um I know that's such a broad statement, but do
Yeah.
you have any advice basically to athletes who are looking to become competitive athletes, track athletes, or bobsled athletes?
I'm going to try not to go on a little rant right now, but what I would say is you, the most important thing above anything else is persistence. There were so many times that I was told I was never. There were so many times I was told in high school that I'd never run in college. There's so many times I was told in college I wouldn't run D1. There were so many times when I ran D1 that I would never make nationals. And I and through persistence and being pissed off, I guess, alone, I was able to accomplish those things. And then like even with doing those, the Olympics is such a huge goal miles above that, where I was told that was never going to happen. And it felt true. Um, but it was through persistence and luck alone that it worked out. But the biggest advice I'd have to any athlete, one, surround yourself with the people that are going to take you to the next level. I mean, I would attribute all of my success to maybe five people. I've had three coaches, one training partner, and then my spouse that have completely changed my life when it comes to athletics. I mean, it's Ryan Bailey, it's Coach Chris, it's Coach Jay, it's you as a training partner, and it's Kaysha. Those have been the most influential people in my entire training career that I think I was always crazy, but they allowed me to be a little bit crazier. Like they allowed me to go to that level that I don't know if I would have gone to by myself. That'd be my first advice. My second piece of advice is give yourself the tools and the resources to be able to be great. Use stuff like Armform. It's such a game changer. Like we talk about how the level of athleticism is stepping up so much. It's because we have access to stuff like this. If you're not using it, you're wasting your time. You know, it's easy resources that can take your game to a whole other level. And the last thing is like you cannot, excuse my language, you cannot quit. You have to keep if you have a dream, you have a responsibility not just to yourself but the world around you to chase it. Because the reality is sometimes it's not going to happen. Sometimes luck is just not going to work with you. But if you're persistent enough, one day has to be your day. And even if you fall short, man, the amount of people that you'll meet along the way and the person you become in the journey, that's worth it all. So that's
Well said, baby.
yeah. I'm done with my rant. That'd be my advice.
No, I appreciate that. I think it's awesome for coaches to hear this perspective from you guys and for other athletes who are looking to grow and get better. I think technology plays a huge role in our now development as athletes. We wouldn't be as far as we are without it. And then again, everything else you said, just surrounding yourself with good people, good coaches, listening to your coach and taking in that feedback is all super important.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you both talking with me today. I think a lot of people will be excited to kind of hear your guys' stories and just a little bit about how you guys prepared for the Olympics. And I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah,
You got
thank
it,
you,
dude.
Lexi.